from NBA free agency beginning in the NBA. And on today's show, we are going to look at some free agent targets for the Miami Heat following the NBA draft, as we have 2 new additions plus some UDFAs that might tweak how Miami views their needs entering free agency. I think it's important to mention the top 3 impending free agents for Miami, though. Caleb Martin, as we are currently filming this, maybe this has changed, but Caleb Martin is yet to opt in or opt out of his player option. Every sign points to him opting out. That $7.1 million is probably half of what he can make on the open market, so he's likely gone. And then Haywood Highsmith is a restricted free agent, and then DeLon Wright is also a free agent. He's unrestricted, though I wouldn't expect a lot of interest, at least from other teams. And to me, out of these 3 guys, I'd love to bring back DeLon Wright and Haywood Highsmith. Highsmith, who knows what he can get? If you can get him for $6 million or less per season, I'm all for that. If it creeps up to $8 million per year, I'm probably letting him walk, if we're going to be honest. But as I mentioned with DeLon Wright, I like what he brought in the last 25, 30 games of the season for Miami defensively. If he's able to be a better three-point shooter in his second season with the Heat, he is someone I'd love to have as our backup point guard. Make sure you are following me over on Twitter, because I'm going to give you daily Heat coverage, Miami Heat news, some funny content as well. We're on the road to 2,000 followers. We're almost 800 away. Make sure you follow me as well, because if the Heat do make a signing, I'm going to have the news there first prior to filming a video. So make sure you follow me on Twitter. Same thing with the draft. I tweeted out the Heat draft picks before breaking it down. Same thing will happen in free agency. All right, let's get to some outside free agents now that the Heat could go after. Number 1, Buddy Hield, the guard from the Philadelphia 76ers, who has bounced around in his NBA career. And he is one of the best, if not a top 5, top 10 shooter in the entire NBA. Like, he consistently shoots 39, 40% from beyond the arc, no matter who he plays for. Take away the one season in 21-22 when he shot 36% from 3. It's been consistent 39% or better, basically. And I know a lot of you are going to say, well, how is he going to be an option? He's going to be a little bit overpriced for Miami, and they don't really need shooting with Hero and Duncan Robinson. A lot of you think I want to get rid of Duncan Robinson. I'm not saying I want to get rid of him, but if the opportunity presents itself to shed that $19 million in salary and maybe get a pick back or get a better asset back, I'm going to do that, because as much as I love Duncan, I don't think he's worth $19 million because of his injury history and his inability to defend. So if you shed Duncan Robinson's salary to like a team that can absorb it, like a Washington, like a Charlotte, and you get just like 1 pick back, or you attach 1 pick and just get rid of the money, maybe Buddy Hield could be an option for cheap, because he's not going to get probably more than $10 million in free agency. So that is probably a way where you get him, and maybe he is your 6th man next season. Someone we have talked about quite a bit, Obi Toppin, the forward from the Indiana Pacers. And I actually really like his fit in Miami. He averaged 10 points a game last year. He spaces the floor very, very well. The one thing that's intriguing about Obi Toppin is that even though he's got good size and is a 4 in the NBA, he doesn't really rebound the basketball, because he's always trying to leak out on the defensive end so he can go out and transition and put down a highlight dunk. And sure, that's fun at times, but if you're in Miami, you're going to have to crash the glass and rebound. But he can play the 4. He can defend a little bit, switch onto 5s, and space the floor next to Bam or Kel'el Ware. So I think Obi Toppin, if you can get him for like $6-7 million a year, which is possible, I think I would do it. Doubt Indiana lets him out, though. But they did also draft Johnny Furphy, who could be a replacement. Who is your top free agent target for the Miami Heat? There's other good free agents out there, like a James Harden or DeMar DeRozan, bigger names that Miami simply aren't going to go after and can't really afford, as they are $4 million underneath the second apron and $6 million above the first apron. So it's not a lot of flexibility for Miami. That's why we're talking about a lot of cheap targets, or targets they can go after if they shed $5-6 million in salary. Jalen Smith, a new option, another Indiana Pacer, who I am very, very intrigued with. And I wasn't sure if he was even going to be a free agent available. But as of today, when we're filming this, which is Friday afternoon, he opted out of his $5.4 million option in 24-25. So two things I want to address here. Does he opt out because he thinks he can make more money than that? Or does he opt out because he wants a larger role and his role was kind of diminished in Indiana? Well, if it's the latter, well, then Miami can be an option because if you can get him for $4 or $5 million, I'd love to bring him aboard. Someone that I actually wanted Miami to draft in the 2020 NBA draft when he took Precious Achiuwa in front of Tyrese Maxey. But Smith was someone I had circled as a Heat target before he went late lottery earlier in that draft. He can space the floor, he can play small ball center, but him and Bam next to each other would provide size, shot blocking, and rebounding as well, while also giving the offensive spacing that you need. Jalen Smith for $4 or $5 million, I am absolutely in on bringing him to be a backup big in Miami. Another wing that I'm intrigued with is Taurean Prince. I've always been a Taurean Prince guy. I don't know why I can't shake it, but I just love Taurean Prince. I do. And I don't care what the Lakers fans, he's a good ball player. I know they like to hate on him quite a bit last season, but it felt like every time in my entire life that I've watched Taurean Prince, whether it be when he was on the Cavs, whether it be when he was on the Timberwolves, grab space for a second, or with the Lakers last year. Whenever I tuned in, this dude could not miss from three. And I mean, he shot 39.6%, so he's clearly a good three-point shooter off the catch. He also has good length to him. He can defend. I think I would love Prince as a backup forward. And if you do end up losing Caleb Martin free agency, which I give that a 99% chance of happening, I think Prince could be a very good replacement option for the cheap. I have my eyes out on Prince. And if you had to rank every target that we're talking about on today's list in terms of value and fit for Miami, Prince might be number one. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we are going to break down every move Miami makes in free agency, whether it be a trade, whether it be a signing, a re-signing. It does not matter. Hell, if Caleb Martin signs with a different team, we'll probably talk about players leaving Miami as well. So hit that sub button to get the best coverage on YouTube. Russell Westbrook is another option for Miami. Not someone that I actually want, if we're going to be honest. But, yeah, I definitely think he's someone Miami could have interest in due to the NBA odds, right? Like, I've seen the odds makers have the Heat as the top option for Russ. I don't believe them. It might be a money grab from them. I don't think he fits here. I don't want him. He's a cool player, and sure, maybe he can run our second unit. But do we really think him, Jimmy Butler, and Bam can share the floor together? At least as things are currently constructed, unless Bam is a 40% three-point shooter on 4 shots a game, which is not going to happen unless it's a miracle, that spacing would be horrific. That can't happen ever. I'm out on Russ. Eric Gordon, the guard, long-time veteran in the NBA, he opted out of his player option with the Phoenix Suns, which I was kind of intrigued by because he was sneaky good for them last year, like 11 points per game, 44% from the field, 38% from three, while playing 28 minutes a game. Like, he logged a lot of minutes alongside Book, Beal, and KD, and maybe he's saying, like, I don't know, I don't really like playing with those threes, I'm not having the ball in my hands that much, but, like, I'll take him on the vet min. Like, he's 35, yeah, he's old, but if the Heat need shooting and scoring off the bench, he's not going to be expensive. At most, that $2.5, $3 million a season. I would take a swing on Eric Gordon if you don't like any of the other options there as a backup guard. How about this, fellas? Patrick Beverley. Could the Heat reunite with Beverley and bring him home? I had to show this photo. Wow, this is such a long time ago. But look at Pat Bev in a Heat uni. Remember, he used to be a member of the Heat pre-LeBron days or around that time. And then North Cole came around, and he ended up winning that roster spot. And then Beverley went overseas and then came back to the NBA. Beverley is a Bulldog point guard. He would not start in Miami. I don't know if he wants a starting role, but if you don't bring back DeLon Wright, Beverley can give you a lot of the same things that Wright did in terms of his defensive ability. Beverley's a similar three-point shooter, maybe a little bit better. I also love his mentality. I know a lot of people don't like his antics, but I think it's fun. I like the aggressive-ness. I like that style. I think the Heat would like Patrick Beverley, and I think Beverley would be open to ending his career here if they gave him a good role off the bench. So let me know, would you sign Patrick Beverley? Type Y for yes or type N for no. I'd probably rather grab this guy, though, if we're going to go for a backup guard that's a defender. Dennis Smith Jr., someone that I have had a lot of interest in for the past couple seasons for Miami. I talked about him as a potential trade candidate as well during this past regular season because the Heat needed point of attack defense. They got a little bit of from DeLon Wright, but Dennis Smith Jr. is a more athletic version than DeLon Wright. Worse of a shooter, Wright was able to shoot at 33% last season. Dennis Smith at 29%. But Smith Jr. is hella bouncy, very, very quick, and one of the most underrated on-ball defenders in the guard position that the NBA has. He would be your lead guy coming off the bench. He's also very similar to a guy that just got dealt yesterday in Davion Mitchell from the Kings, who I would have been open to making a deal for. Like, I don't hate the Heat adding a defensive-minded athletic guard off the bench because they need that. And if you are keeping Hero and Rozier, it's nice to throw a change of pace in there. If Hero or Rozier takes a break on the bench, if they're both on this roster next season, you put in Dennis Smith Jr., you put in a Beverley to provide some defense. Kind of am in on that. One of the last two guys here, Precious Achiuwa. Yeah, the forward from the New York Knicks, who also used to be a member of the Miami Heat. Achiuwa is an intriguing name here, and some of you might say, well, why would we draft Kel'el Ware if we're also planning on signing a big like Precious Achiuwa? Well, I actually think here, and if I'm going to be honest, I think it makes more sense to bring Achiuwa in after the NBA draft. Right now, as things currently sit, as we're unaware at this moment of filming, what Thomas Bryant or Kevin Love are going to do with their player options. I expect Love to opt in. Bryant's a mystery. But your big man rotation is Bam and Kel'el Ware. So there might need to be some additions there as a center and power forward. You got Jovic, but why not bring Achiuwa, who knows this system, knows how Eric Spoelstra likes to run a team. He can be the bench 4, the bench 5 if you want to go small ball. I think Achiuwa is someone that I would be in on trying to swing big with in a cheap deal. Last name, Naji Marshall. Yes, that is who we're talking about. If you know, you know. I know that some of you might not want to bring in Naji Marshall due to his fight with Jimmy Butler last year. And I understand that, but he's a good basketball player. And if you can fit him in, I think he is a really good Caleb Martin replacement as well. Only played in 19 minutes a game last year for the Pelicans, kind of buried on that depth chart, if you will. But he averaged 7 a game. He can shoot it from 3 off the catch. And if we're going to be honest here, the dude is just a simple lock machine. Like, he is a really good defender. And I don't know what his exact role on Miami would be, but there's no denying if you need a stop late, under a minute to go, you're up 5 or 6, you put him out there alongside Jimmy and Bam, that's a pretty good defensive trio right there. I would be in on adding Naji Marshall if you can fit him into the salary and get him for like $6-7 million a year. All right, make sure you are following me on Twitter. Like I said off the top, when the Heat make a move, re-signing, trade, signing, whatever they do, I will break it down on my Twitter first before coming here and making a full video. So follow me there and make sure you're subscribed to get the best Miami Heat coverage.